Welcome to the Houston and Sean podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 5, coming at you live. Houston and Sean. This episode, we are going to be talking about the great field of expanse of technology, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. What you are viewing this on most likely is, in fact, technology. So we want to talk about it a little bit. So Houston, what are your thoughts on technology?
Well, I thought it would be interesting to talk about how technology has evolved in our lives to what it is now. Starting back when we were kids, I think the earliest technology was VHS. We had to watch movies on VHS tapes.
Yep. So we have to admit how old we are. In fact, to all of you ladies and gentlemen, we didn't just go back to DVDs. We went back before DVDs to VHS, where we had to rewind, where we went and rented our movies from little stores in the outlet, or in like outlets where they would have like a store next to stores and stores that would just be for renting our VHSs.
Yes, you would go to a building in an outlet or a mall or whatever, and there was Blockbuster, there was a place called Suncoast Video, and you would rent movies on VHS tapes that you had to rewind. And what I liked about VHS is, there were always previews before the movie started. And so when I was a little kid, I watched, like, let's say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a million times as a child on VHS. So I knew all the previews before the movie by heart, as well as the movie itself. And I kind of missed that a little bit.
There were some perks of our really old, clunky technology, I would say. And no matter what the technology is that's coming out, it's always cutting edge. Like DVD, cutting edge technology. It was just so big, like big screen TVs, cutting edge technology. And they always cost like a crap ton of money. And then over time, they become more affordable. It's like, okay, now people that actually don't have that much money can also buy them and crap.
And what I want to bring this, since we're talking about that, I love looking at pictures of like celebrities in the 80s with the old school cell phones that were like gigantic. They were the first cell phones, and they're like on these gigantic things that look like walkie-talkies, and they thought they were so cool. Like, this is cutting edge technology, my giant walkie-talkie cell phone.
That's so funny too. I mean, at a certain point, it was so cool to have a pager, as a rapper, because that's all they had. It was like, who's this paging me? It's like, I don't know. And how do you even know? They're just like a little beeps, and like you had to like get it out, like, oh.
It's like when you hear the Biggie song Juicy, and there's the part where he raps Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Like, that's always makes me laugh because that's such an outdated, those are such outdated like video game consoles. But
Oh man.
anyways, we're getting off topic. We were talking about VHS, correct?
Yeah, VHS.
Do you think we've said enough about VHS? Like how
I,
you'd rent a VHS at a Blockbuster or whatever, and if you didn't rewind the tape, when I was a kid, I thought if you didn't rewind the tape, you would get arrested. They wanted you to rewind the tape before you took it back, or you were in big trouble.
yep, they always had the notice. It was please be kind, rewind, which
Yes.
they were like, oh, excellent, kind and rewind rhyme together, so we can use that.
And it's like, you know, speaking of VHS, like the first video cameras only shot on like VHS tapes. And I love, that's what I started filming on. And I love the way VHS camcorders, I love the way it looks now. It was gritty and crappy, and there's a lot of retro stuff now with VHS going on. In fact, people these days are starting to collect VHS tapes.
Yeah, they're collectibles. Everything is a collectible now that it's not the new technology. It becomes a collectible.
Yeah, at first it's cutting edge. It's first It is cutting edge technology. Then it becomes lame and outdated, and then later on it becomes cool again.
Yep, exactly. Like records, records are in, you can buy them at Walmart. It's like, what the, you
Speaking of
know,
records, we're not that old. Records like vinyl records were before our time. So I think
it's true.
when we were young kids, I think tapes were out and CDs were in their infancy.
Yeah, the Walkman for the tapes and then the Discman for the CDs,
Yes.
sort of like the CD, the Discman replaced the Walkman. When CDs were popular. I mean, CDs were a little bit more expensive than tapes, which was too bad, but it's what it is. A
Did you?
CD usually costs about 17 bucks, I feel like, and
Yeah.
then the tape was more like 10 bucks.
Now, when you did you start out listening to music on tape or were you already doing CD?
Nope, yeah, I did. I listened to the Walkman as previously from our music podcast. I listened to Green Day Dookie was my first tape that I
Mhm.
was able to find in the neighborhood and was able to listen to it on a Walkman in my bed at night.
Speaking of tapes, uh, I remember Sean, you had a tape recorder. Do you remember
Hmm.
that? And
Yeah,
we recorded Sean and I recorded a rap album on a tape on his tape recorder.
yeah.
There was also this other time.
It was before our voices changed too. So we listened to it as teenagers, like, ugh, who are these women?
Yeah, we
Who are these,
sounded. Yeah, there, and Sean, I have not, I have that tape somewhere that we made, that rap tape we made, and I cannot get myself to listen to it, mainly because I don't have a tape player anymore. But
That
I
was
would,
when you were screaming, it's like the thing you put the cheese in.
yes,
Oftentimes, Houston would do some sort of catchphrase that he would think of at the time and just do it over and over and drill it into my head like it was something I needed to like hold on to.
and it was only something that made sense to me. It
Yeah.
these catchphrases, but yeah.
Like that song by Fatboy Slim. You got
Funk
to
show, brother, check
yeah,
it
praise
out
you, right?
now.
You've got to praise you, or what was
No,
it?
that's the other Fat Boy Slim song. Got to praise you like I should.
Yeah, and you said that, when you got into that song, you would say that over and over all day that day. It's like, oh man, is Houston gonna say anything else? Probably not. It's just
And
that. Or
some,
when you got into the that's what she said joke, and it was like that's all you would say.
yes, I would repeat catchphrases over and over and over again, and I lost a lot of friends doing that kind of stuff.
But so tapes, CDs, that was kind of the music technology. Then in sixth grade, right, we had Napster come out, which was
No, no, no,
like,
no. We got to back up. We got to back up
okay,
because
back up,
this is very important. Um,
rewind.
so when we were kids, I had cable TV. I don't want to get into cable TV, but like there was cable TV, you had a phone, maybe you had a video game system. The internet was not out yet. That didn't come out until we were like 12 or 13, correct?
Yeah,
So
right. And it was
that's
AOL, America Online.
so we were alive for the beginning of the internet. And yeah, it was AOL. And I remember thinking that was the coolest thing in the world. But, like it took, if you wanted to look at like photos on the internet, it would take like 5 minutes for a photo to load. And you could send emails and there were chat rooms, AOL chat rooms. Do you remember those?
Yeah, instant messenger, instant messages, right?
AIM and AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. And that was how we communicated to like our friends at school.
Exactly. And if you got online with a girl, it was like you were sitting in the lunchroom. Like I was as nervous to type a message to her
Yes.
as if I was just right there in the lunchroom, like, hi, and then she would respond back, and I'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yes. And like AIM, AOL instant messaging. I remember like there'd be a screen and it would show you who was on and it would have their screen name. And I remember if it was a girl I liked and her screen name popped up, I'd get really excited. And I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna talk to her. I'm gonna talk to her. No, I gotta wait 5 minutes and let her talk to me first. Like it was a big thing. It would get really, I'd get really excited about that.
So with the tape recording, right? So we would tape on VHS, and there was always that thought, I can just rewind this and record something completely different, and the history of what I'm currently filming is erased. There's no trace of it. So I had this in my mind, like as a 13-year-old, oh, I'm just gonna erase this stuff. And then one time I completely forgot, and my parents, they basically they took all of the VHS that we had ever recorded and put it onto DVDs. And out pops like crap tons of my footage that I thought I was going to erase. And it
That
was
you
all
didn't.
very embarrassing. And I did not. And yeah, I remember in my 20s, they sent me a DVD. It was like, oh my goodness, this is hilarious. I'm glad I didn't erase it, but back then I probably would have been like, oh, I'm so stupid. I should have erased it. But it had me doing random crap around the house, just like so corny and cheesy, like me playing a Three Doors Down song on your guitar, and it was horrible, like just like ear racking. And my dad's like coming into the library that I was recording on, like in, and getting upset that I was making all that ruckus, and all he wanted to do was use the portable phone from my sister's room, which he didn't know how to use. It was a very basic system of just like turn on the talk button, press the number, and then talk. And he was like, well, how do you use this thing? I was like, you turn on the talk, you dial the number, you put it to your ear, and you talk, you know, being sort of sarcastic to my dad and everything.
Yeah, I bet he liked that. I remember one time while we're talking about tape recordings. Remember your parents were sleeping and we thought it would be funny to record ourselves talking on the tape player and leave it by their door and just we pressed play. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And your
yeah,
dad woke
vaguely,
up and
yeah.
got really mad.
Yep.
That was like the second time I've ever seen Sean's dad get angry.
Yeah.
But
It's like, how about if I push this button on Hayes Butler? Will that do it?
yeah. So yeah, tapes and then what we were talking about the internet, correct? The beginning of
Right.
the internet.
Yeah.
So all that came out, I think I was in middle school. And
And it was an Ethernet cable. It was a dial tone. You dialed into the same line that your phone was on, and it would be like, and if you were on the trying to dial into the internet, if you picked up anywhere else in the house, you would know because it would be that same dial tone going into your to your ear if you were trying to make a call.
well, I might be remembering this wrong, but if you were on the internet, couldn't people not make phone calls in the house?
Right, unless you had two lines, you if you only had one line, you'd have to go through the same line as the phone.
Yes. And then, oh man, the early days of the internet, like I remember I made a website. Like Sean and I had our own fake little company called
Right.
Xmonks. And I
Mhm.
made like a website on GeoCities. And like I just thought like the internet was so I was so excited about it. And to think back, like it was so slow back then. Every like pictures took forever to load. And I'm trying to think when like Wi-Fi came out. That was like, I think, how old were we when Wi-Fi came out?
I bet the end of high school, sometime around the end of high school, you
It
know.
happened fast though. It was the internet kept getting faster and faster and faster, and now it's what it is now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so when I was 16, I moved in with my aunt and uncle, and my uncle was more of like a technology. He was into stuff like that. So the latest technology, I sort of jumped from prehistoric to sort of like regular what kids were into because my uncle was just sort of into like the technology of the internet, like Wi-Fi, things like that.
And
My parents sort of lagged, in terms of computer language.
Yeah. But yeah, my first computer was an iMac. Remember the iMac? It
Oh
was
yeah.
like it was cool because it was like colored and like it was all shiny and stuff. And I'm trying to think because like we're on the internet now, but I want to go back to video game technology.
Okay.
My first console, video game console, was the Super Nintendo. And to this day, the Super Nintendo is still my favorite of all time.
Mm. Yeah,
And
you had Mortal Kombat because when I went over to your house when you were 9 years old, you had Mortal Kombat. You had all these cool video games like Mario, but I remember specifically Mortal Kombat because you could actually fight, beat each other up, you know.
rip people's heads off.
Yeah, there was Subsonic and
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero. And who was the other one? The other one that was really popular.
Scorpion with the spear.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember I got a Super Nintendo, and then after Super Nintendo, it was Nintendo 64. And that's
Mhm.
where it started to look more 3D and there was a joystick. And I think that was your first video game console, correct?
No, my first was Game Boy. Is that fair to say? So my parents, when I was younger, to appease me, got the Game Boy for me. That was like beyond cool. There was still a lot of restrictions within my house. Like I was not allowed to have Mario, but I was allowed to have Donkey Kong, where Mario was like in it, but just not named Mario, but allowed to have Donkey Kong. So that was like my first
Why were
video
you not?
game.
Mario's like the most G-rated thing, and why were you not allowed to have Mario?
Oh, to understand the psychology behind my parents' restrictions, you'd have to go pretty deep, like go back into like Nazi Germany and stuff to really get like stuff like that.
So that's a whole other topic for another
This is
podcast.
another topic, but I will say that because I had a handheld um, video game, I thought it was fair that my 7-year-old, when he turned 7, to also have it. But the only one that I could really find that you didn't need a television for necessarily, I think you could do it with oh, what's that one that Nintendo has now? The Switch, right? You
Mhm.
could do it with the Switch, but I am such a a buffoon when it comes to what's going on that really I just went with the Steam Deck. Have you heard of that?
I stopped keeping up with video game stuff, but I've
So
heard of it.
I will show just a display of the Steam Deck. This is my son's Steam Deck. It's as big as my face.
Oh, I've seen that before. Yeah.
So, it's basically just a computer, but they did put like a joystick. After the second time, the joystick broke. And for most of the time I've had this machine, it's just me going back and forth with Steam, like, guys, it doesn't work. And they're like, we're gonna need you to IT it. Go into this part of it. I'm like, it does not work. What is an address that I can send this equipment into so you can fix it? They're like, we're gonna need you to check this next. So it was super frustrating, and finally they just gave me a freaking address. It's like you got to go back to a guy that was raised in the 90s. Like what makes sense to me is get an address and send it in. If
Oh
it's within
man.
like I bought it in October, they should take it.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
me.
so they finally fixed it for me.
That's good. Yeah, Game Boy was in black and white. I had a Game Boy, and then I also had, and I'm going to get very angry, a Game Gear, which was made by Sega. And
Mm.
Game Gear was similar to the Game Boy. It was like wider, kind of like the Steam or whatever. And it
Uh-huh.
was the games were in color, but the batteries would last for like 15 minutes and it would get hot in your hand. Like it would like start to burn your hand and it would overheat. And then the bat like so if you went on a road trip with the Game Gear, good luck. You'd probably get to play it for like a half hour before the batteries died. It was awful. And I get so angry thinking about it. And yeah, it's
Like, dang
just
it, I was just at the part where Sonic was gonna get Tails as a I don't know,
yeah,
whatever. Because that was Sega, right? It was Sonic.
yeah, and I remember one time bringing the Game Gear over to your house and you playing it all night and you would not talk to me. You were like obsessed with playing Sonic that night. But if you took the thing on a road trip, which is what that stuff is made for, it didn't last at all because it would just kill the batteries.
That's interesting. I honestly did not even remember you had Sega, but yeah, my cousin had Sega for a while, and it was so cool. But it was the TV one, and he had Sonic and crap at one of the reunions, and then he went to PlayStation, right? So when he
Mhm.
upgraded, and he had
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot, and I think some of the other like racing games and crap. But I was into it, right? So he was like, Sean, I have one thing I would like you to do is to turn off the PlayStation when you're finished using it. And like a nincompoop, I just did not. And I
A
left,
nincompoop.
and so he hid the PlayStation from me on the vacation when I was at his house, and I had to call him begging, like, Mark, please, just let me have the PlayStation. I just want one more chance. I'll turn it off. And he was like, I don't know. You didn't turn it off. I asked you to turn it off.
And
I
you
was like,
did.
Mark, come on.
You
Did
only had to
not.
do one thing, Sean, and you didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Story
But
of my life.
yeah, I had Nintendo 64 and then went ahead to I got like a PlayStation 2 and then I had
You did,
PlayStation
yeah.
3. But I kind
No,
of
yeah, and you had Grand Theft Auto on those, and that was
yeah,
fun
that was
because
I still think
we didn't have to do the game. We could just run around, beat the crap out of people, steal their cars,
yeah,
beat the crap out of cops, steal
I
their
would I
cars
would
and
buy
weapons.
the GTA games and I'd play the missions for like 10 minutes and then I'd be like, ah, I just want to drive around and like punch people. And I love
Right.
that.
Yeah, and
But
I think they understood that too about kids.
yeah, I mean, that was cool. But like, I kind of, after PlayStation 3 came out, I kind of stopped keeping up with video games. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah,
Because,
the
yeah,
thing yeah. The thing about
good.
tech is tech can be so random, if and sometimes companies will just grab a random like technology and just hype the crap out of it, and out of nowhere all of a sudden like our headphones are incredibly important. That happened with Beats. Well, probably right around
Yeah.
the time that we were probably like 16, 17. Dr. Dre and like the people behind it came out with Beats and sold the crap out of these headphones. Nobody knew they needed better headphones, and all of a sudden it was like, I need to be spending this money on this headset, these headphones, because that is what I need.
And I had a pair of Beats and they were good headphones, but they weren't like, oh my God, these are the greatest headphones ever. Like, they were like, they had like a nice bass to them. I thought that was always a little bit like, they're not that amazing, you know?
Oh, yeah, companies will they'll just grab some random thought that is like, and market it successfully, and all of a sudden it's like what we all need in life more than anything.
Yeah, well, that's marketing for you.
And then it's interesting with the iPhone. Apple was just like, let's just give them some random headphones.
Yeah.
We were all into headphones and how great the quality, but when Apple came out with their phones, eventually it was just like the crappiest headphones ever.
Well, it's those earpieces. I gotta say, I do not ever wear the ear pods or whatever they're called, the earbuds. I always
Mm,
have to listen to my music on real headphones. I can't stand putting things in my ears. It doesn't sound as good, and everybody uses them.
right. Yeah, something like, and even just iPhone and even just the smartphone. So the smartphone, right, came out right around the time we were probably 17, 18. And I probably was the last person to get a smartphone, right? Because
Me
we
too.
had cell phones, we were doing cell phones, we could send texts, we could, send pictures, and all of a sudden, like the smartphone was out, which was really just adding the internet more sophisticated, and it was sort of what had it caught on like a wave of what we needed.
I gotta say, in my lifetime, I think the internet and smartphones were the two most world-changing inventions. And I always say, I think the smartphone is one of the greatest and worst inventions ever made.
Why?
Because I think people are just glued to their phones, and younger kids, a lot of them are glued to their phones, and they're growing up with this in their face all the time. And uh I think it's making, and I'm including myself in this. I think everyone's attention spans are shorter, and
Right.
I know that that happened to me. Like, and people, when you can just get all the information you want whenever you want it, it just makes it like so you don't have to, like, I don't know. Do you kind of catch my drift?
Yeah, I went back to paper books at some point because the attention span I think is important. We don't really work on it, but I want to, I want to sort of just we have the ability to read something and to, focus on something, get knowledge, like for example, your book with Jim Morrison, I mean, you would
Mhm.
not know that stuff if you were just scrolling through a page about Jim Morrison, some
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Oh, I'm
he's
sorry.
he's
Were you
illustrating
talking to me?
he's illustrating a point.
I was going to
Quiet
keep going
people.
until you got mad, but yeah,
Quiet
it's like,
people.
but the one thing I like is, like, if you're standing around, it's, you don't have to twiddle with your thumbs anymore. If you're standing around and you don't have anything to say with a group of people, you have a phone and it makes things less awkward. But
Yeah.
I gotta put it down.
Just have
Let me,
like, you'll have you'll have dinner with friends and you guys will all just be on your cell phones. That's crazy,
yeah,
right?
it is. And I think it's making, I don't know if it's making us stupider or not. Well, stupider is not really a word, but the great thing about it is the great stuff. Like, there's, if you can ever get lost, there's GPS on it. For me as an artist, it's easy for my stuff to get seen now, with that kind of technology.
When I was
So
in ninth grade, The Matrix came out and I sat down and watched it. I was like, what the heck is going on? The first few scenes, it's like he just got sucked into a phone, right? And I had no idea as a ninth grader, like what was going on with that.
yeah,
But I mean, those guys were really smart. Who made it? I don't even know who made that
the
movie.
Wachowski brothers.
What a great, well, yeah, but I think whoever came up with the story was not them. But what a great storyline, of having, technology become so advanced that it takes over and just like uses us for battery energy.
And now with AI, artificial intelligence, which is rapidly growing faster and faster, which will one day probably take over the world and humanity will be doomed.
Yeah, I'm such a lagger with that stuff. I have not used AI even once, at least not to my knowledge.
I don't either. Well, I'm an artist, and a lot of people are doing AI art, which is garbage. Let's change the subject because I'm going to get mad. That's a topic for another time. But yeah, technology, just like, it feels like it just has been going faster and faster. Things keep getting, it seems like technology really moves fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, people get fixated on technology as a world-saving thing. Like for example, like electric cars, right? But at least from what I've heard, I don't know the validity. I don't study this very much, but I've heard that electric cars cost a lot of, fossil fuels to like get
Mm.
them here and you know where it's a good thought. It's like a nice idea that you would be saving the planet. Where in reality, the cobalt that needs to go into those cars, like
Yeah.
and the lives that it takes and crap, just seems like, I don't know, a little bit going against the actual point of what those cars are about.
Yeah. And have you ever driven a Tesla?
I have not. Have you?
No, I want to. I
I,
want to see what that's
I've
like.
never even been in. Yeah,
I've
never
never
been
been
in
in
one.
one. I've always wanted to check it out, but
Yeah. Well,
have you,
Elon Musk is like really, he did I think, a pretty amazing thing, which is just like cut right into luxury vehicles and put an electric car in there, you know.
It's funny we brought that up. I am currently reading a biography on Elon Musk. It's this thick, and
Mhm.
he's a very weird, interesting person.
Yeah. I tried to watch the Saturday Night Live episode with him. I'm like the people around him are being funny, but he is not, and it's kind of dragging down the funny.
Yeah, well, he's all about and he actually did this. I think they did the first person last week. Have you heard about Neuralink technology?
uh
It's something Elon Musk is trying to make happen where you put a chip into your brain and so that you're connected with like your technology through your actual brain. And they actually put one of those chips inside someone's brain like a week and a half ago. And yeah, I will never in my life let someone put a freaking computer chip in my brain.
I mean, that's the crap I had daydreams about back in the day, you know,
Mhm.
like, oh, it'd be great to learn this language with a computer chip, like just download it, you know.
I think it's really dumb. But hey, he's the richest man in the world. He must know what he's doing. I don't know. I just know I'm not going to put a computer chip in my brain. No, no, thank
But
you.
how about if you can learn a language? It's just like,
No, I don't care. I'm not putting anything in my brain. I'm not doing it.
Houston, just put something in your brain. Sheesh.
No, I am not putting a computer chip in my brain. I want to see what happens to that guy that did it. I want to see if he's
I
still
think we need to
alive.
put a computer chip in your cat's brain and have it like actually do stuff.
Yeah, you can't
It's
really
just,
see her because she's kind of covered by the blanket. But cat, every single podcast we do, that cat is in the same spot.
yeah, she is a part of our podcast, just like anything else. I mean, like the third person, like the third being in the podcast is your cat.
Yes, absolutely.
We should call it the Houston. What's her name?
Gizmo.
The Houston and Sean and Gizmo podcast.
Well, I think what I'll do next time is I'll just have the cat sit in my chair and I'll just go somewhere else and you can talk to the cat for the whole podcast.
I would, I would too.
You would
You know,
do
I
it
would.
for 45
I would.
minutes?
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah. I had a cat. We have a cat here that we sort of take care of, kind of a stray. He's gotten a little bit more like props in the house, so we've let him in sort of to avoid the cold
Mhm.
in Boise, Idaho during this winter. And so I bring his litter box and his water and his food into my room so he can spend the night, let him sleep and stuff. Instead of using his litter box, he crawls into this bag that I was keeping I randomly got a bunch of shaving cream, like from these people I just that helped me buy a car, like 50 bottles of this shaving cream, crawls into that bag instead of his litter box and pees all over it. I'm like,
That-
dude, how much money did you just like, I'm not throwing it out. I'm just gonna sanitize the crap out of it, but
It's just cat pee. I mean, it's
it's
not that
just cat
bad.
pee.
It's
Yeah,
that's
you can
all it
shave
is.
with it. You can shave, nice clean shave with your cat pee.
It's completely harmless. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. But
No, but I mean,
how did we go from technology to cat pee is what I
it
want to
just
know.
happens. Yeah. We're gonna try to talk about technology again, but we're gonna inevitably wind up back in cat like in the conversations just gonna be about cat pee again. So
All of our
unfortunately.
conversations eventually turn into, yeah, cat pee discussions. Eventually.
I never have any idea like with technology too. I feel like like the amount of memory space and crap, the current video game. This is what I found with video games is that I would want to play with my friends, but they'd have spent hours and weeks and months on that specific game and it was no fun. Like when
Yes.
Halo came out when I was in college, it's like, come on, Sean, do this Halo night with us. I'm like, I don't even know how to move the guy, and you know how to pop a cap in somebody from across the freaking field.
I hated that because I was the same exact way. I'd always have a friend who would invite me over. And they played the game nonstop constantly. And I'm like, I've never played before. So can you guys take it easy on me and like let me learn the moves first? And they never would take it easy.
It's like,
They would,
"Oh, sure, sure." And then they're shooting me through the
yeah,
wall. I'm like, you're shooting me through a wall.
yeah.
It's like, how do
My,
I even stand a chance?
it's
So I
like
just opened fire on the wall, like just a spray of bullets. Like if I feel a bullet and he happens to miss, I'm just spraying the wall with bullets.
that's when I started like I suck at like Call of Duty and like because I don't like how the controls, how you have to move like two joysticks just to move around. I
Yeah.
like Super Nintendo. I like Donkey Kong Country. I like Super Mario Brothers, old school Mortal Kombat. It's just simple. It just gets so complicated. Video games. Like there's a million buttons you have to learn, and I just don't have time for it anymore.
Yeah, like when the Mario movie came out last year, I loved it because all I had to do was sit there and watch it. It's like this is great.
You didn't have to play it.
Yeah. And Jack Black was in it. Great choice.
I haven't seen it. I wanted to see it just like, because I was a big Mario guy when I was a kid.
Oh, you should see it. Yeah, I mean, I saw it because of my sons, but I loved it. Probably liked it more than them.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'll have to put that on my list of stuff to watch.
It's just great that technology does improve. I gotta say there are some props. Like used to be you were the corniest guy on the block if you came out and said, "Guys, I have a projector." And you'd have to like set it up, you'd have to have a towel on the wall and like it'd be like a sheet of some sort. And but recently I got a projector from Samsung. It's like as good of quality or as an actual TV. I have no need for a TV anymore.
And what you do with your projector is when you're sleeping, you project movies onto your ceiling, correct?
Yep.
I
Yeah,
think
and
that is the
yeah.
coolest thing, the coolest idea in the world.
Yeah, I wanna get this thing on there. And so I'd just be like falling asleep, just like, oh man, I'm getting tired, but I'm still trying.
Like I've never experienced that, like lying down and looking up and watching a movie that way. Like that is,
One thing I noticed last weekend was, man, I had never done anything but watch it on my ceiling because my son, he was like, I want to watch a movie on the wall. And so we did, and the screen expanded. I was like, holy crap, I did not know the screen would get this big. But yeah, we put it against another wall, and because of the distance, it just completely made the whole screen a lot bigger. It was sweet.
yeah,
I
I've
just had no
never,
idea because I was just so fixated on just falling asleep to movies on the ceiling.
I've never had a projector before. But
So you're
that's a
gonna buy
really,
one tomorrow?
no, I'm not going to. I'm going to say I
Okay,
will and
fine.
then never
I'm
do
gonna
it.
send you one tomorrow.
Okay, please,
Am-
please send that to
And
me.
actually, let's talk about Amazon. That's another huge thing that came along, right?
Well, yeah, Amazon came out when the internet first came out, and I remember it was like you could only order books from them. They were
Right.
like selling just books. And
Yeah.
like I remember I ordered a book from them and I
Same
thought
with
it was cool to
Netflix.
sing.
Netflix, they would mail you a DVD when it
Yes.
first came out. Yeah.
Yes. There was no streaming. Streaming
Right.
is I think one of the greatest inventions because uh but there was something about going to a video store and looking at the boxes and
Yeah.
what am I going to watch tonight? You really had to think, you really had to know what you wanted to watch because that was all you would have for the weekend. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I miss
Yeah, I
that.
would
Like,
I would I would be so focused and so observant of those boxes that even if
yes,
I never saw it, if you name a movie, sometimes my mind just goes back to
what the
what the cover of the movie looked like.
when I was a kid, I remember my mom would take me to the VHS, the movie rental place, and I would always go to the horror section. And look at all the horror movies that I was too scared to watch, but I loved looking at the boxes and scaring myself. And I
Mm,
remember I obsessed over Child's Play, the Chucky movies. And
yeah.
I have those, I would look at those video boxes and I was too scared to watch the Chucky movies, but I have those images seared in my brain. I was like obsessed with it. And I would love to go back in time and go back to that video store and just smell like that plastic smell and like just I would love to do that again sometime.
Yeah, and you have that guy that lives in either an apartment or still with his parents that's working the store, you know.
Yep.
And you know, and he was just like, you know, a very lazy, like, you know, he did not care what he was wearing, and but you know, in terms of movies, he was actually really smart about it.
There was a place when I was like a teenager I would go to because Blockbuster was up the road, but across the street from Blockbuster, there was a place called Cinema Video. And it was owned by these two burnout ex-hippies, Vic and Merck. Did you ever go there? You remember Vic and
Where
Merck?
was it?
It was
Where
in
was it?
Fairfax in Tallyville.
I don't know.
But these two guys, like Vic was like really opinionated. He hated every single movie that's ever came out, and he would actually like not let me rent certain movies because he thought they were bad. And I
Right.
hated that. I'd be like, I want to rent Billy Madison. And he'd be like, why would you want to rent Billy Madison? It's a terrible movie. And I remember like my mom would take me there and like he became good friends with my mom and they would like complain about stuff together and it was weird.
Mm.
And then there was Vic and then there was Merck, the other guy who never said a word. He'd just stand in the back and go, hey, hey. I don't know if any of this is interesting to anybody, but Vic and
It's
Merck,
like Jay and Silent Bob. That's what that reminds me of.
it was exactly like that. Vic and Merck, they were the most colorful video store guys. And I wonder where they are now, what happened to them.
Yeah. Like, what would they be qualified for after that job? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's an obsolete job, but like they had more like you could go there and get more obscure movies if you wanted to. And it was kind of cool because like when I was like a teenager, I was starting to become like a film nerd kind of. And they would always have things that Blockbuster didn't have. And they were like a mom and pop video store. But anyways, I'm going off on a tangent.
I think technology is such a big part of my entire life. Really, it has been, you know.
Yes.
I liked the fact that I could catch on quicker than my parents, you know, so it sort of allowed for me to like figure stuff out. Like Napster was just the first of the downloading programs.
Yes.
But you know, they would have all these internet restrictions, but nothing on, you know, and then I'd put LimeWire on my computer and just download whatever the heck I wanted.
So
You know,
Napster was like the first place where you could download free music, and it would take like 40 minutes to sometimes to download a song. You know what I
yeah, and
mean?
it's like, come on, I want this song. I want this song. Yeah,
Yeah,
downloading speeds have been definitely changed. Even the streaming of social media has really, really changed, you know. The
yeah.
first
So
one that was popular ever was MySpace, you know, it was
MySpace, yes. My
completely different.
whenever I think of MySpace, I always think of the 2006 like emo haircut. You know what I mean? Where it was like you had it back then, where it was
Yep,
like combed to the side. That was so
yep,
MySpace. MySpace was so like
yeah.
emo haircut. That was like the style of MySpace. But MySpace was cool.
The biggest thing with MySpace was there wasn't the back and forth. It was like, this is me, and that was it. You know, like you could go on to that guy's site, his MySpace page, and sort of get like an idea of what he liked, like some pictures he liked. But what you weren't gonna like comment, you were gonna like his stuff, you know, it wasn't gonna be, you know, and I think that that was its big setback, you know.
Yeah, I think that's, and then Facebook came out, and Facebook, I remember it was only for kids in college at the beginning.
Mhm.
Like you had to be like in college. And so
Right.
when Facebook was out, it was only like friends, like people you knew. Your parents weren't on there, your aunts and uncles weren't on there at first. And so
And it completely has swapped.
it has completely swapped. And
Eventually kids had to leave, like a mass exodus of Facebook and find other social media,
yeah, well,
mainly Instagram.
like now, like after a while, it's like, oh, I have to be careful about what I say on Facebook now because it's not just my friends anymore. It's my aunts and uncles. And like, but once Facebook came out, MySpace was like dead. Like it
Right.
just totally, Facebook just annihilated MySpace. And now
Yeah.
Facebook is kind of like, it's a trash dump.
Yeah, Facebook is tough. I mean, I've heard of stories where a person says something on Facebook and it gets around and then they get fired from their jobs. They like their life is destroyed because of something on Facebook. That's dangerous, like anybody has access to what you're saying on the internet. If you're not going to show it to anybody, probably should not post it, especially
Yeah.
if something's at stake.
And don't ever post on Facebook when you're drunk, because that is
Yeah.
always very embarrassing. Not that I would know. I've
No, of
never
course
done
not.
that before,
No, you haven't. You haven't.
ever.
Never.
No, I definitely would post on Facebook when I was drunk and then read it the next day and be like, oh no, I have to delete this immediately. Hopefully no one read this. Yeah, it's
Right.
embarrassing. My face is getting red thinking about it now.
I sort of want an example. Do you have an example?
No, I do, but no, I'm not going to go there.
That's
No,
fair.
nothing like sometimes I'd get drunk and emotional and I'd post something very emotional on Facebook or I'd complain about something or I just type something very incoherent. And I'm sure everybody who read it like knew I was like drunk, you know?
Yeah. I think, changing the subject, Apple has been a very smart company in the sense that with technology, we as people just want to feel that we are up to date, that we have what other people have, and some of us, that we have what other, people are going to get.
Mhm.
And they have been so smart about that in the sense that they upgrade constantly to the point where if you've bought an Apple from back in the day and try to upgrade it, it won't even let you. It's like, nope, this is too old of one of our products. You bought this too long ago. If you're gonna continue to use random necessities like the internet, you're gonna need to buy another one of our products.
Yeah. Well, some people don't like that about Apple. Like
No, that's
Apple,
horrible.
Apple products are only like they're so Apple centric. It's like whereas with a PC, it's more like, hey, everybody has access to everything. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And you know what, Houston? I did not set the timer. I have no idea how long we have been talking. Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. I'm sure it's got to have been at least 40 minutes, right?
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you like this technology podcast. Don't buy anything. Let's go back to the caveman days. Let's take it, let's mass decide that we don't need technology, that we're just gonna be apes. Let's go back to
Yes.
apes.
Or we'll do the next podcast only on VHS tapes. I'm not sure how we're going to do that, but we'll figure out a way.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good to see you. Come back next time.